Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's
And my name is James. How are you, Sush?
This is done now, the Sky season, I'm afraid, mate.
It was
Probably for
done for
about 3 or 4
it was
weeks.
done for me. Like when Pep started fucking about with his team at late December.
Yeah, I had the period where I was like just outside the top 1,000. I made it up to like 250 to 300. And then I've hovered around there for about 4 or 5 weeks and I just can't break it. So I've gone down now to 329. I've had an all right week, on Saturday with Rashford being out, I captained David De Gea, 18 points. That's not too bad.
I did the same.
On Sunday, I had Erling Haaland,
I
14
did the,
points,
I
not
did the
too
same.
bad. On Monday, I had Mo Salah,
I did
not
the same.
too bad. In and around that, I had Lewis Dunk for 9, Ruben Diaz for 10, Ibrahim Kanate for 6, fuck all from Trippier, Martinelli, and Mitoma, and Alvarez. So, there's half returns, half not, but I've gone backwards in rank. I've got 3 transfers left, James. Martinelli and Rashford can go, and I'll be buying Brighton and City. I might keep
Hot,
Rashford.
hot off the press. He's back in training this morning.
Oh, fine. Okay, well, Martinelli's going anyway. I'm going Brighton, City. I'll probably add 1 Brighton and 2 City on whatever day they play, Saturday, and then I'm done. Then that's all my transfers done. But I can't break that 200.
No, it gets
ceiling.
really, really tough at this stage to make any form of ground at all, basically.
By the same token, then, if you've got a good team, does that mean it's hard to lose ground?
Yeah, I mean, we just summed it up, right?
So basically, it's easy for Paul then, really. It's hard to break, it's hard to lose. So once he got there, he's been on easy street, mate.
Yeah, but not quite, is it? Because
nah.
John Donnelly in third's now only 5 points behind Paul's first team, and level in second. But John Ashworth is only another 7 further behind.
Yeah.
The likes of Thomas Lovell, Brian McCauley, Dale Pointer will probably still feel they've got half a chance of winning it as well.
Good luck, Paul. Good luck, all of you guys, to be honest with you.
We love everyone, but yeah.
Paul's just agreed to buy us beers. None of you other guys have, so,
Are we allowed to tell people yet or not? I don't.
What? That he's buying us a beer?
All right, fine. Yeah. We're not allowed to tell anyone anything else, so no?
Nah.
No, okay, fine. But you summed it up, right? And I know De Gea is only like 20% owned in the top 1,000 or so, right? But we've done the same thing. Okay, there'll be people who've done different things. So Harry Kane probably would have been a fall into place captain for a lot of people. He scored a late goal, right? He scored basically the same as De Gea at the weekend. Haaland, majority of people Sunday, same thing. Salah, majority of people Monday, same thing, right? I said Saturday last week when if Nunes starts against Leicester, I'll captain Darwin Nunes. Captain Darwin Nunes, he ain't even on the bench with his fucking toe, right? What a disaster signing that's been for me.
And for Liverpool.
Boom,
boom. Joke.
To be confirmed. But yeah, it's very difficult to make ground. And there'll be people listening. And if you're just going to captain those players, then you're not going to make ground. And of course you're not. But Haaland, and not so much Haaland, but Mo on Monday night, right? You go, I'll go Kanate instead or something. It's not doing you nothing, is it? No. Like, if you look at Liverpool playing Leicester and don't captain Mo Salah, really, you need to examine yourself, don't you? I mean, those who've gone Trent will be happy and have won through as well, right? Yeah, it's tough to make ground. I've got 1 left, but I might be thinking something a little bit different to what I had originally thought. So the March injury meant I bought Alexis McAllister, as discussed last week on Sunday. Did nothing Sunday, but I think, 5 games left. That was probably the right play for me. I had the exact money in the bank. So I've got literally 0 in the bank now. So Nunes, I think, is the obvious full guy for me. 10.5 in the bank. The plan was always to sell one of the 3 Liverpool players after Liverpool play Aston Villa and moved out onto City or Brighton on Sunday. There's a couple of other things that I'm thinking in mind now. So we've said probably Sunday, subject to if people have, for whatever reason, no Newcastle or no Manchester United, maybe. Sunday, for me, as far as I'm concerned, is use your transfers. And whatever happens at the end happens. Some in perhaps slightly stronger positions might feel the need to want to leave something back for the final day. But I think for the majority of us, the gains are there at the end. but the gains are not so clear now. And that's because, if Brighton were to win tomorrow night at Newcastle and put themselves in a position where they're essentially locked in 6th, but probably will still be adrift of 4th, are they that bothered about the last 3 games? In Manchester City's case, we've obviously now got the situation where it's highly likely that after Sunday, the championship is won. And what do they do for the last 2 games? So for a City player, almost for any City player, could you look at Sunday and go, yeah, there's a 3-for-1? You couldn't guarantee, even Haaland, right? Even Ederson.
You couldn't.
Literally none of them. You could not guarantee that you were going to get free starts of a Manchester City player Sunday, Wednesday, and the following Sunday. And you won't even see the City team on Sunday. Although, contrary to what a few people have said, if Arsenal win the title Saturday, City will mass rotate. I don't see that. Home game.
Arsenal lose the title.
Well, no, but I think I've seen a few people suggest if Arsenal get beat on Saturday and it's done, Guardiola will just pick a reserve team.
No,
I agree. No.
Home tie to win the title, Sunday 4 p.m. Everyone on the beers, I've just got a feeling they're going to smash them 3 or 4.
That theory is based on the last time City had this situation with a Champions League final still to go. The game after they won the title was Newcastle away. That was the night many Sky listeners and viewers will remember as the Ferran Torres night. Scott Carson was in goal and Ferran Torres played a hat-trick, scored a hat-trick. And to be honest with you, we were all buying like a last City player that night. And I considered every player bar Ferran Torres, basically. Torres got a hat-trick and he did a great job. That's what you want, is something like that at the end, which is what I completely understand why people want to look at doing things differently. But I think that was away. You have to remember that was a very poor Newcastle. This time, even if they win Sunday or if Arsenal don't win Saturday, they're going to lift the trophy on Sunday, right? It's 2 away games afterwards. So for me, they're going to pick a strong team. They're going to celebrate afterwards. That's what they want to do. I think you and I agree on that. So I think
I've heard João Cancelo's flying back in, mate, to pick up his medal.
I've heard him linked with Arsenal this morning, quite interestingly.
Really?
Is that true about him flying back in for his medal?
No.
The likes of Haaland, De Bruyne, your Rodris, I think John Stones and stuff like that, Ederson, they'd all play Sunday.
Yeah.
After that against Brighton,
who knows?
God knows. Good luck. So it's got me thinking about a few different things because my intention had been to go to a City player. Now, whatever City player I go for, I'm probably not captain, let's be honest. It's Haaland Sunday. I'm not going to look beyond that of a home game on the Etihad. It's not the one where I want to fight against it. On the Wednesday against Brighton, that's probably one more to look for a punt. The following Sunday, they're probably not best away to Brentford. I look at like Mo away to Southampton, for example. I think that's really attractive. Or maybe there's something else that will be particularly attractive or differential people can call upon. But what I'm considering different now is a Newcastle player tomorrow night. And the thinking behind that is I've just got Kieran Trippier, which I want to guess are just what you've got. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I'm concerned about buying a City player on Sunday because it's an effective 3-for-1 that I don't know is going to be a 3-for-1 and there's no captaincy. If I get a better Newcastle option in tomorrow night and captain it, i.e. Isak or Wilson, and that player starts again on Monday and starts the final game, it's effective 5 games, isn't it?
Yes.
That's stronger than getting a City player on Sunday, is my opinion now.
I agree with you. I'm in a 4-4-2 as well. So Martinelli to Callum Wilson or Isak. Very doable.
You got any money in the bank?
2.7 million, mate.
Oh, so you're good either way. I mean, they're both good value.
That's my normal bank account. In my Sky, I've got even less.
No. So, on that point, which one?
I'm
going to say Isak.
I'd go Wilson.
The reason I say Isak is, if I want it to be effective, I'm pretty confident Isak will play Newcastle's remaining games irrespective of position, whereas I'm not sure Wilson will. I think minutes-wise, he'll get more. I think
there isn't a huge ownership differential, 28.6 versus 21.6.
Which is obviously top 1,000 you're looking at, yeah?
Difference. No. Yeah, top 1,000.
It's fine. So, I mean, the differential enough, aren't they?
Yeah. Callum Wilson, 168 points Isak 102. I know minutes, obviously.
Yeah,
I
just
think I'm
massive
going to go
difference between
Wilson,
them.
mate. To be honest with you,
All right, well,
I'm on board.
I'll cut you a deal now. So you go Wilson, I'll go Isak, just for the
Deal.
crack, yeah. All right,
Yeah.
as long as my guy's in the team, right? Otherwise, I'm going for the other one.
Yeah. Of
And I
course.
think
Of course. Of
I think
course. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
reason that's changed is there's a couple of things. One, I spoke last week about Newcastle being the only one I didn't have cover for. So with Rashford, we now think he's going to be all right for the weekend. But originally looking at it and going, when I was looking for a keeper replacement, going, actually, De Gea here is the one that's going to cover me up best. And actually, he's proved to be a decent signing so far. The Trippier one is now you're looking at it every game and going, it's just fucking 2 points. What is the point here? His ownership's massive, 74.4%. So the majority, I think, are still just going to think, I'll just go with that. But if you're sitting there with Trippier and Isak or Trippier and Wilson, like this is a really interesting one. If you're Paul and you're first, or if you're someone else and you're holding on to a mini league or something, do you go with that ownership tomorrow night? Or do you go with a Newcastle player? Or do you go with a Brighton player?
I think this is a good debate because if I don't buy a Newcastle attacker, I've got Dunk, Trippier, and Mitoma. And I think before you go with ownership, first you got to look at points, right? Ultimately, this is a game about points, not ownership. And I don't think either team are going to keep a clean sheet. I think there's going to be goals for both teams tomorrow. And therefore, I would go with an offensive player. So if I was not buying Callum Wilson or Isak tomorrow, then I would have gone Mitoma over Dunk and Mitoma over Trippier. So that was my plan. I think you've got to always think, what do you think the score is going to be? Because if there's no clean sheet in it,
I
then
think
you
there'll be
can't
goals both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you can't go with the defensive player. You've got to go with the attacking upside if you own. And so I would have gone with Mitoma. Now, because it's a home tie for Newcastle, if I buy Wilson or Isak, that trumps Mitoma for me. Doesn't mean that they'll outscore him, though, sadly. But I'd still say that was like 60-40 if I was going to go with a Newcastle striker over Mitoma. Yeah, I would go with the offensive player.
Is that the right thing, do you think, for me? Just to make a transfer tomorrow? That's it. Done. Finished.
Yeah, everything.
I think
I logically agree about the Man City rotation for sure.
Nunez is the player I'm going to sell, right? He's obviously a doubt for Saturday. I think, as we discussed on the podcast on Monday, I think there's a fair chance Firmino, if top four isn't available, might start at Southampton final day as well. So that Isak, for me, over Nunez, it literally might be an effective 5-0 if I pull the trigger Thursday night. I know what'll happen if I do it. It'll blank and Trippier will get a clean sheet and Nunez will start and score on Saturday. We know how this plays out. There is one other alternative I'm considering, which I think is a bit left field. And I think is a great shout for a differential for those who are really looking for it. Who do you think's the worst team defensively in the league, Such?
Who is the worst?
Yeah. If I said you put a team up against, if someone was going to go and play at the Etihad, you're saying Leicester, yeah? You shit yourself.
Probably.
After Leicester, who?
Southampton.
After Southampton, who?
Tottenham.
Okay, that's fair. After Tottenham, who?
Leeds.
Okay. I'm thinking about Bowen. You play Sunday against Leeds. So could hold Nunez for Saturday on the off chance there's something now. Go Bowen Sunday. And that feels like more of one where I'd almost think if I'm going, do I go Hail Mary on it? Not that it particularly matters for me at my rank. And captain him at home to Leeds. And they've got Leicester away final day.
And he might not play if we get through to the Europa Conference League final and they decide.
And that's very true.
I don't think.
But you will also see the team on Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. It's a 1:30 kickoff, so I do get that. I would go back to the Newcastle attacker, James, and here's why. And we're going to segue into a conversation about captaincy. With all the game days left, my preference is always to have an alternative and a backup captain. Newcastle Brighton Thursday we've just discussed, offensive Brighton or Newcastle player. I've got plenty of coverage on Saturday. Could be Mo Salah. I've got Manchester United coverage away at Bournemouth. I've got more than one option. Sunday, I've got more than one Man City player, and I've got plenty of Brighton. The Monday, Newcastle against Leicester. What if Trippier doesn't play?
But the only reason he's not going to play is if he's injured, let's be honest.
Yeah, but what if he doesn't? You're now
I hear that.
out of captaincy. And then Brighton, Man City got plenty of coverage. Manchester United against Chelsea, I've got De Gea and Rashford. So I think I've got coverage in the last day is the last day. So if you were to go with the Newcastle offensive, it gives you a backup on the Monday against Leicester at home. I don't think Trippier will get dropped or rotated. But
no chance. It literally only doesn't play if he's injured.
But
right?
what if? Then you've got no captaincy coverage. So
I don't think you can play the game on what ifs, can you?
No, but is it worth the punt on Bowen? Oof.
It's something different, isn't it? All I'm saying is, I think the thinking would have been it's thinking about alternatives because the Brighton and Man City situation feels like it's a bit murkier. And I mean, to be honest, if you're going for a Brighton player, you should have probably done it on Sunday. What's gone? So it's now, if you'd have been left in this position, you probably think, right, Man City at the end. Okay, what am I going to go into? Now looking at it and going, it's probably 2 for 1 rather than 3 for 1. And in many of the cases, there's maybe no captaincy. Now, it might be people have the luxury to get in KDB. I think that would have been a different one for me, maybe. If I could have gone from Nunes to KDB and captain KDB twice, maybe, then I might have gone, okay. The rest, really not sure about that. So it's looking at alternatives. And I think Mr. Bowen, there's nothing in his form recently, but you know he's capable of the haul, right?
Mm.
And Leeds, although I'm sure they'll be better under Sam Allardyce, are still shit defensively. We don't know who's going to play left back because Junior Firpo is going to be suspended. And we know Leicester are definitely shite defensively, right? So in terms of the final 2 games, if I said to you, remove Sky, remove game days, who's got the best last 2, let's say FPL game weeks for a second? Who's got it best? I'd probably say it's Manchester United, then West Ham.
Yeah.
And Manchester United doesn't really make sense from the Sky perspective to go and invest in on Saturday, does it? It almost makes sense more to wait till next Thursday for the Chelsea game. And I also think with them, equally, if they beat Bournemouth and Chelsea, their top 4's done.
Yep.
Do they then, with Fulham 3 days later, rotate ahead of an FA Cup final the following week? So it's the same almost position for them. So the one Man United player had been considered is because the exact money is there is Nunes to Bruno Fernandes for no gain on Saturday. Because with him, we've learned this. He probably will play every game, won't he? But likes of Rashford and stuff, get risked every game. I think it would be a case of they get their job done first, but we'd fancy him to beat Bournemouth away at the weekend, I think. We'd fancy him to beat Chelsea next Thursday. Then it is done. Then potentially Ten Hag has that luxury, doesn't he? Certainly to say for the likes, I'm not going to risk Varane again against Fulham in that game, for example. So it suddenly makes you, once you level it out, you go, right, well, Jared Bowen probably does play twice if he's in the team against Leeds. Because remember, West Ham's Conference League final, should they make it, he's 10 days after the Leicester game.
Yeah.
So there's no, you want to keep them as fresh as possible. They will all play.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is people like Bowen will probably play in the last 2, assuming he comes through tomorrow night unscathed and is still in the team on Sunday, probably plays arguably even more minutes than your De Bruyne's and Rashford's and maybe even a few of the Brighton lads. I think Brighton might rotate quite a bit on Sunday, which is the one game that you don't want them to rotate for, which is Southampton at home. There is the luxury if you want to go a differential captain on Sunday that you will see the team. Remember, that's a 1:30 kickoff West Ham Leeds on Sunday, guys.
It is.
Rather than 2 o'clock. No one knows why.
Up on time, mate.
No one knows why, but it's a 1:30 deadline on Sunday rather than a 2 o'clock. So, captaincy. So we said we're going, what, Wilson versus Isak tomorrow just for the crack?
Yeah. And if not, Mitoma. On the Saturday, James, I think the United away game at Bournemouth is the standout. I know Liverpool at home to Villa. A lot of people want a little bit of Salah. Some people still hanging on to Harry Kane, who's got the early game and you know he's going to play. against Brentford. But I think if I've got wind in the press conference and Rashford's fit, it'll be Rashford for me.
Saturday's the one that's wide open, I think, because you could make a case for an Arsenal player at Forest.
Yeah, the only reason I didn't go to Arsenal, mate, was ownership. I just don't know how many are still hanging on.
There'll be about 20% left to got sort of Saka and Odegaard. Martinelli's got about 30% ownership, so they're all going somewhere, aren't they? If people are lined up in a 4-4-2 with Martinelli, we don't know if Martinelli's out yet, it's just worth saying. But it'd be handy for those guys to get news ahead of the games tomorrow night, because then something like Martinelli to Wilson or Isak, same thing, right? So I think Arsenal Saturday, Manchester United Saturday, obviously you mentioned Harry Kane, and obviously there's Mo as well at home to Villa. Villa will play that high line. It's potentially very good for Mo Salah. I think Saturday's the one of other than obviously the final day. If you are looking to chase, there is enough choices on Saturday to go wild with it, I would say. Mm-hmm. That's the one where you go against Mo Salah, I think, if you're looking to chase. Personally, though, Salah probably is the best choice for Saturday because it's a home game at Anfield, bottom line, mate.
Sunday, Haaland.
But there are differential choices. Big game Kev, if it's available for a title celebration, is certainly one. Gundogan, if he's in the team, is another. Alvarez, there'll all be ones. Chelsea, the City guys defensively, you'd fancy probably for the clean sheet and the Parsons here, wouldn't you? So, yeah, if you can nick the attack in return from a Diaz or a Stones or whoever plays, that will appeal. Brighton offensive players against Southampton, and I wouldn't discount like the likes of Jared Bowen from that conversation. Is he definitely the right West Ham one?
No.
If you were to go and do that for the two games,
no.
Who is then?
It's a tight call. The only other one I would potentially consider would be Said Benrahma. He's on the penalties.
Yeah, fair.
He loves to take pop shots from in and around the box. On site, he will shoot. So I think the only other one I would consider would be Said Benrahma.
Yeah, that's fair as an alternative. It's certainly an option for those struggling more on the budget
side. Yeah,
good.
I don't know who is, to be honest with you.
If we were going back 2 months ago and we were discussing which one to buy here, we'd say Bowen wasn't worth the money. I think. Correct, we probably would have advised Benrahma. So now it just comes down to you're not buying a player like that and then selling it again. So it just comes, can you afford? Yes or no? Is what it comes down to. The little preference for Bowen, just because I think he could hit the treble. He's unlikely, but he could. Whereas Benrahma Benrahma is likely to return. Bowen more likely to haul. That would be my take.
On the Monday, sticking with Newcastle attacking.
Wilson versus Isak, isn't it?
Assuming, yeah, and Trippier's always there as backup.
What I would say is most will obviously have something Brighton tomorrow night to go against Newcastle. If you've got something Leicester to go against as well, in the likes of a Maddison, I mean, that's probably, if we went sort of Trippier versus Maddison Monday night, I don't think that's quite clear cut, actually. Because we probably fancy Leicester to score, don't we?
Possibly, yeah.
We're going to have to do something in the game. So I think that'd be a close one, but you'd be inclined to go to Newcastle player, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Keep it simple. Brighton, Man City, team dependent.
Whatever's in the team, isn't it?
Yeah, basically. Completely team dependent. I think
that would be a good one to go differential. So I would think, little things to bear in mind, like if Matoma's in the Brighton team and Cole Walker's not, that sort of thing. Okay, could I? Yeah, that appeals far more. Whereas if it's Matoma versus Walker, you don't have that sort of same confidence, for example. Yeah, I think that would be one. I've got Alvarez. If Alvarez is in the team that night, I'll probably do that.
And Thursday, we'll record before next Thursday, but Man United, Chelsea is the last of the doubles. It's Rashford or De Gea, depending on who's in the team. If Rashford's fit, it'll be Rashford. If he's not, it'll be De Gea.
Basically that. We got no interest in Chelsea at all, Suj.
No.
Entry point Sunday, obviously. They'd have their own 3-for-1.
No. Who are you? If you're buying a Chelsea player when they go to Man City for the title celebration, who are you? You're probably someone with more transfers to burn than sense. So, yeah, no Chelsea for me, James.
Well, there is someone in the top 1,000 who owns Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mind you, I found out today that there's some 3% in the top 1,000 still wearing João Cancelo.
It's crazy.
3.9%. What? That can't be right, surely.
No, it probably can be.
There's 39 people in the top 1,000 who still own João Cancelo.
Yeah,
I mean, how shit
probably.
does that make me feel, mate?
You just burnt too many transfers early this season.
No, I think they did, obviously,
Well, yeah, they're
presumably.
just paid off a little more.
Because if they're still sitting there, if they're sitting there above me with João Cancelo and they've still got 25 transfers in the bank, then yes, I really am feeling bad. Yeah.
So, do you want to cover off any tiering points on the weekend and a little bit more on ownership and where we are with certain teams and what have you?
You've caught me right on the hop there, Sir John.
Apologies, James.
That's all right. Yes, I can do though. Once I get there using FF Stuff's brilliant site, who I'm now trying to PayPal some money to. Yeah, Frank, I'll get that sorted for you, mate. Right, some returns from the weekend gone. Nothing passing wise in the Leeds Newcastle game. Newcastle player any tier was Callum Wilson, 3 shots on target, which obviously included the 2 penalties. Is worth saying Leeds played, we discussed this on Monday, Robin Koch in a holding midfield role, which might solidify them a little bit. Douglas Luiz with passing for Villa against Tottenham. It was Clement Longley and Christian Romero also in the passing. My mate Emerson with tackles. Harry Kane with the 2 big chances, 1 big one and 1 missed, and the penalty scored for 2 shots on target. Badiashile, Silva, Chalobah, and Enzo Fernandez all in the passing for Chelsea against Nottingham Forest, which should come as no surprise. We tipped up Danilo a bit last week, 6.5 in midfield. If you were going to do it, that moment's gone. He did play in a more advanced role, actually. You know how many completed passes he got for in 91 minutes, Suj?
75.
2.
Oh, wow. Wow.
A Forest player with 75 passes. I'm not sure I'd expect that if the opposition was down to 9 men, mate. Gay and Anderson both in passing tier 2 for Palace against Bournemouth at the weekend, which also includes 6 tackles for Joachim Anderson and a punch on Jefferson Lerma's nose. Zabani of Bournemouth, who got a start, also hit tier 1 passing. It was 8 saves for standing Wolves keeper Bentley at Old Trafford. No passing tier for any Manchester United player. Lindelof 44, Ericsson 47. The most from that. Bruno Fernandes 36. Anthony Robinson in the passing at Southampton. That doesn't happen often. Diop and Adarabioyo also as well. Visser and Mbumo both for shot tier for Brentford in the victory over West Ham. There was even a passing tier for Ben Mee. Were you just not interested at all on Sunday, Sir John?
I don't think so.
No, we don't know at this stage if Ivan Toney is going to be fit or not. For Manchester City, no surprise, all of the back 4 in tier 2 passing at Everton. 81 Akanji, 103 for Laporte. Who stepped into midfield quite a lot. Diaz 92, Kyle Walker 73, Rodri just the 68 in his 88 minutes. Gundogan with shots on target. Arsenal Brighton. How many Arsenal players passing tiers do you think, Suj?
None.
Correct.
I've got it open in front of me. I'm cheating.
Okay. Jakub Kivior at 41, the most. Only 67 for Lewis Dunk. Levi Cole, I thought, was outstanding, 85. McAllister, who roamed between 2 positions, 45 and 3 tackles. He wasn't far off getting something. And Leicester, despite 8 tackles won by Ndidi, 7 for Tielemans, 4 for Castagno and Samare. Don't know how that happened because it didn't look like they put up much of a fight after Liverpool scored the first goal on Monday night. But it was passing for Robertson, Van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Curtis Jones, who obviously scored twice, and Fabinho, who I thought was much better. The defensive player who was not in the passing, of course, is the one I owned, Ibrahima Konate, with 52, also 2 tackles and a yellow card for, yay, 6 points. Woo. Just another white flag my season. I saw Ian Parron put it right the other night on our Slack channel where he said basically those who went early for Liverpool went Konate, and those who waited a week got Trent.
Yeah.
And what a difference. I mean, Trent now looks absolutely bang on it again.
No doubt about it, James.
That's your coverage, mate.
Good. While I pull up the questions on Twitter, what do you think in terms of what people are going to be moving off and moving to?
So I had a look at ownership in the top 1,000. So there's basically big ownership for 7 players now. So Mo Salah's the most owned in the top 1,000, 98.4%. Erling Haaland, 95.2. People might go back to that even more on Sunday. Lewis Dunk, 86%. Kieran Trippier, 74%, as we said. Harry Kane, 69%. I guess those who have Kane and don't have Haaland, and there might be a minority of that, might make that move this coming Sunday. Marcus Rashford, 64%. Alexis McAllister, 60%. Of that top 7, there is a case to sell Mo Salah on Sunday if you've got the luxury of transfers left with just the 1 game to go. Although I would say I think he's one of the best captaincy options for the final day, and that's important to consider. Harry Kane is less appealing on final day now because Sam Allardyce is in at Leeds now rather than Javi Gracia. The other 5 are not getting sold because they've still got shit to go after this Saturday. Gabriel Martinelli has 35% of ownership in the top 1,000. He's 8 million midfielder. And that's what we said. I wonder if those who are set up to be able to get Wilson or Isak from that tomorrow night, if they just go and do it, if they don't have one. Otherwise, options are obviously plenty. Go into perhaps another United on Saturday. Something like Victor Lindelof defensively might be a differential one to consider. This is obviously on the basis of if Martinelli is injured. Other than that, you're going for what the others are going for on Sunday. And because of the price value, you're probably going into Brighton. Or although if you can get up a little bit towards a Gundogan, I quite like that, maybe. Isak, Trent. Don't think people would sell Trent with 1 to go, to be honest. David De Gea, Mitoma, Saka could get moved on, obviously, after Saturday. He's still in 23% of the top 1,000, Suj. And I think that those that have should strongly consider captaining him on Saturday. Estupiñán's obviously done wonders for a few people. Near the top end of the game, 6.6 defender. Van Dijk, Wilson, Ederson, Akanji, Bruno Fernandes, Julian Alvarez are the only other players with more than 15% ownership. So from that, most of those have games left after Saturday, other than sort of Kane, Trent, Salah, and Saka and Martinelli. So that's where people are going to come off at the end, failing for less people have ended up in shitty differentials like me, like Darwin Núñez. I think Martinelli owners should really consider Wilson Isak tomorrow night. I think that's the play, really, I think.
Agreed. Should we go to Twitter for a few questions, James?
Go on then, boss.
We've answered most because people are asking things like, who's the next best player to bring in from so-and-so. But AD says, would you still go in with the rest of your transfers on City from Sunday or get more Brighton? Well, I think, James, you've done a good job of selling Newcastle from tomorrow and possibly a bit of West Ham on Sunday.
I think it's circumstantial though, right? So if you're one of those, we have to consider 20% roughly Wilson and Isak, right? So that means there's 2/5 of the top 1,000 have one of them. They ain't doing shit tomorrow night. They're waiting for Sunday to add another City, another Brighton, or go rogue on a Jared Bowen or something, for example. I think the preference would still be on a City player, I think. Just because the ceiling just feels like it's higher. Look at Gundogan on Sunday, for example.
Yeah, he did
well. Like, grab something like that feels more likely. Whereas Brighton, look at the amount of forwards they've got now. You've got people like Enciso dropping into the conversation, Undav coming on and showing that he can get the odd goal and stuff. Welbeck's fit at the moment. It's a bit murky for the forward players. Like Evan Ferguson is the one I think you'd want to go to where there could be a ceiling on it. How many starts does he get in the 4 starting with tomorrow night? Not many. Well, probably not enough to justify it, I don't think. Probably twice, I guess. I don't know.
Ian Parent says, with those that waited a week, we talked about it benefiting from Trent over Kanate. Are there any instances from earlier in the season where waiting a week would have been similarly rewarded? Something to bear in mind for next year too, maybe missing one fixture for additional info. We hope that City defence was one to really struggle. We don't figure out which one to go for, but I don't know if it was just a case of waiting one additional week ever.
Nah, listen, as I discussed at the time with the City assets back in January, like put me in that position again, I'll do it again. It just didn't work for me that time. Every time I've done it in the past, I'd be like, I'll get 5 players from Liverpool or whatever. And it always felt like someone else had 6. You know what I mean? Always felt like I was behind.
Yeah.
This time I was like, I'm going for it. I went for 8, didn't I? And it was just a car crash. It was ridiculous. But put me in that position again, yeah, I'd have done it again. Who could have foreseen? Suddenly he's gonna just rock out. It wasn't even like they played the first day on Boxing Day, was it? We had who's this Rico Lewis guy who he suddenly decides he wants to play every week. And as soon as you start considering him, he takes him out the team. Not that I ever bought him, but you're like, is he gonna keep doing this? And they didn't look right over that period, let's be honest. Now the shape of the teams come together and they're playing that system with essentially someone else copying, normally John Stones, what Lewis was doing, and they look great, right? And now you've got other copycats like Trent at Liverpool and stuff like that. No, I'd go into it again. I think an interesting note, I think Paul will be known to nearly all the listeners and viewers, and we know Paul's style. Paul's very template, doesn't take too many risks and stuff. And we've debated in the past to be like, but can you win it like this? Well, even if Paul doesn't win it, you're going to come fucking close, right?
The point is you can. Yeah,
absolutely. And who knows? Maybe Paul's going to go and buy Jared Bowen on Sunday. I have no idea how many transfers Paul's got left. I don't know nothing. I wouldn't even know who's in Paul's team at the moment. But if Paul wins it, a lot of people are going to think that's definitely the right way to play it next year. And it will do you very, very well, but it's no guarantee. And I do think there's a little bit of a danger. People, this is the way to do it. And when I'm certainly not saying Paul's way is wrong. Clearly it's not. But this year's this year and next year's next year. And the one thing I've certainly learned about fantasy games is that no 2 years are the same. Next year will be a different beast again.
Yeah, it's true. Craig Kemp's got the last question of the show, James. He says, with transfers still in hand, how many would you save until the final day?
No.
Obviously limited fixture game, but possible gains if you have 11 on the final day because of injury or rotation, or just move on Sunday for 3-for-1. So you've already answered this where you've said, I think Sunday's the day to go and whatever will be. That's definitely right for you. I'm going to be all out by Sunday or Monday, but more likely Sunday. So yeah, I'm with you, mate.
I think reasons to still carry a transfer to final day would be, I was already sitting there with a Newcastle forward and I had 6 transfers left or more.
Okay.
Because then I would choose probably 5 on Sunday and keep 1 for the final day. So yeah, I really think that's. I'm going to wait for one player who's not going to be. Nearly all of us, promise you right now, nearly all of us are going to have someone on that final day who doesn't start. Okay, fine. You've got the luxury of being able to bring someone in. The other thing with that final day, what you're going to be getting, oh my God, Mo Salah's a sub. Imagine Mo Salah is your one player that doesn't start. You've got 1 transfer left and your other 10 players are starting. What do? Do you take him out when he comes on and gets the inevitable brace with 20 minutes to go and stuff?
I can see exactly what you're saying.
So from a Sky principle, there's no gains. Could you, yes, go for a wild differential on the last day? Yeah, sure. But my take would be do that with like a Jared Bowen on Sunday. That would be my take.
Cool, James. That's a wrap for this episode of Planet SkyFF. Last one, well, in the season coming at you next week. We'll obviously do one the week after the season's finished to wrap. Well, we'll tell you more about that when we get there. We're both coughing away, James. Listeners, thank you so much for all of your support. Do head over to patreon.com/planetfpl if you want to support the show. And do share the podcast on Twitter at Planet FPL Pod is where you can find James. Other than that, to everybody that's in and around that top 20 or in mini leagues up at the top, I wish you all the very, very best of luck this coming weekend because there'll be a lot of moving and shaking, and we'll see how we're getting on this time next week. Stay safe, look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Good luck, everyone. Cue music, please, man. Ciao.